was like midnight. And I don't think you were drinking anything, were you, David?
No, and I was on my last leg. I was really sick, even though I was trying to fake it. But for some reason, they didn't have a guy for me to wrestle, and they asked me to come back or what have you the next night or so. And I couldn't take it anymore, so I caught a next flight out of there. So
Yeah,
I didn't get to wrestle there.
I got you.
Yeah, but no, that was the beginning of the end. I was falling off the cliff with my liver.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so
Did you have a liver transplant?
I did have a liver transplant and a kidney transplant.
Oh,
And
wow.
during the liver transplant, I ended up having some heart attacks where I died from. I had 5 of them, and I
Wow.
ended up having as many strokes, and was quite the ordeal getting back to this point. I'm actually feeling like I'm halfway normal again, but yeah, I was in ICU, surgical ICU for like over 100 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a rough
Yeah.
road, but I'm glad to be here.
That's amazing. I have a lot of friends,
Yeah,
over there. I'm a lot older than you, but
yes,
uh, I have friends that have had multiple problems, strokes, heart attacks, liver transplants, kidney problems. As a matter of fact, I just got off of the phone with a kid that he was the first one to ever bench press 800 pounds.
wow, it's moving some iron.
Yeah, and he was taking these steroids that I had never heard of,
Right.
and I said, I'm glad I wasn't before the steroids came out.
Right.
I was around, but I never took. I military pressed 550 pounds
Oh yeah, no,
without any fucking steroids.
right on.
And
You were the first American to overhead press 500 pounds too,
yeah,
weren't you?
yes, I was. I was the first one to military press 500 and clean and jerk 500, as a matter of fact. But my problem, when I was lifting those heavy weights, if I would have been taking loads of steroids, I probably wouldn't be here now. But
Right.
if I had been, my injuries probably would have recuperated, a lot quicker. That's one advantage of taking steroids. They help you heal. So I had a doctor, Dr. Wold, out in San Francisco. Him and his brother had a chiropractic practice, and they knew guys in the medical field, so they hooked me up with steroids.
Right.
And I said, "Well, how many should I take?" They said, "Well, recommended is one a day." So yeah, I was a big guy, I took 2 a day. I find out now I'm 340 pounds at the time,
Yes.
super heavyweight. I find out that our one on the Olympic team for weightlifting, our 148 pounder, 165 pounder, 181 pounder, they were taking 20 and 30 a day.
Oh wow.
I was taking 1 or 2.
Right. And you're quite their size, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if any of those guys are still around. They might be.
Would you have done MMA, Ken, if it had been around when you were younger with your strength?
I don't know, because I started wrestling with the AWA out of Minneapolis January of 73. And everybody remembers Nature Boy Ric Flair. Rick and I had a house that we were sharing with a couple other guys. And I tell everybody, this is 1971, 71. I said that was the original Animal House. It was a fucking total chaos, 24/7. I mean, and here I'm in the middle of training for the Pan American Games, World Championships, National Championships, the 72 Olympic Games. So I tell Ric Flair was only 21 years old at the time. And he was the instigator, behind all the parties. And so I finally pulled Rick aside. I said, Rick, you either have to cut these fucking parties out or I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to go. Well, what? I said, I can't get any sleep. Christ, at 2:00 in the morning, the record player starts up and there's 20, 30 people in the living room and dining room all throughout the house. It was a big house.
Right.
But I said, I can't put up with this shit anymore. So he backed off on the parties. He knew.
Right.
And so it was just crazy. Like, what's that one band? Ozzy Osbourne. Crazy Train.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I could see some crazy things happening there, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it was. I didn't know anybody that was in the party half the time.
Okay.
I'd be sitting on the couch and 20 people would come in, 10 people, 5 girls and everything. And Rick was a pussy hound. That's all I have to say. He could get, for some reason, he was a pussy magnet. And girls just followed him around. He had the gift of gab. Yeah, but it was a good-looking guy, At that, when we were living together, he weighed like about 280 pounds. Wow. But he's in the living room. We get everybody around. He'd start doing the gator. I don't know. You guys remember the gator?
No, it's before me.
No, what was it?
No, well, that's where you get on the floor and you start doing all these gyrations and stuff. And I mean, you really have to be athletic to do it. And so he had everybody mesmerized every fucking day. I'll tell you one time, our bedrooms were upstairs. We had 4 bedrooms, 4.5 bedrooms upstairs, a couple bathrooms. So he says, nobody leave. It's like midnight. Place is packed. Our house was like 50 fucking people. So he goes upstairs and he strips down bare ass naked. He puts my weightlifting boots on, my weightlifting belt on, and nothing else. So he comes to the top of the steps with his wiener all jacked up. So he comes down swagging, here's 280 pounds with a boner. And he's coming down the steps. And I'm not kidding, there had to be 50 people in the house. So he goes right from the bottom of the steps to the kitchen. I said, what the fuck's he up to now? He goes in the kitchen and he has one girl put ketchup on his cock. He has the other girl squirt mustard on his dick. He comes back in the dining room, living room, and so here's 280 pounds. It wasn't all muscle. And he put on a show. It was unbelievable. I'll never forget that. And
That mustard must have burnt. That doesn't sound very comfortable.
well, by that time he had enough booze in him; he was going to feel nothing.
Well, he hadn't changed that much when I ran into him at WCW.
You met Ric Flair, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I used to work with him. So, like I said.
Oh yeah, down for
WCW.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Ted Turner.
Tank wrestled too. Well, obviously he's way better known as an MMA fighter, but how many years were you actually in WCW, Tank? Because didn't it go out of business while you were under contract?
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
I had a 3-year contract with him, and then I worked pretty much till it started falling apart at the end, and I was sitting around twiddling my thumbs. And what you gonna do? Might as well go out and spend the money they're giving me.
Yeah, you probably would have been around with them longer had they continued on, I'd imagine, because you were enjoying yourself.
Yeah, I was having a great time. That's an awesome lifestyle. Yeah.
Well, you might be dead, actually. You might not still be alive if that had continued. Now that you mention it,
that's probably very true. But yeah, like I said, Rick didn't change much from what he was talking about right there, all the way to WCW days. And yeah, no, that whole little fun thing for 3 years was rock and roll lifestyle, man. I'm telling you, I had the professional wrestler passport of partying, and I pretty much, I'm sure it contributed, if not expedited, my situation with my liver. But yeah, after that happened, they fell apart. Vince bought them, and everybody was just running around like crazy, and it was kind of time. I was just starting to get sick, and it was time to take off. And so I went and soloed for a while until I blew a gasket in my liver. That took about a year. But yeah, as far as getting down partying and having crazy times, boy, there's nothing more than professional wrestling. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Ric Flair do his helicopter trick that apparently he says he could do, where he spins himself around like a helicopter? One of the fans was asking. Either of you?
I might have, but I fastly forgot.
Did he do it standing up or laying on the floor?
I don't know. I've only heard about it. It's become kind of an urban legend now that he calls it the helicopter trick, I guess. I guess it's standing. He'll take the robe off and there'll be nothing on under the robe and he'll do it, I guess.
I have a recollection. I might be manufacturing it, but it's possible.
Well, Rick did that in 1970 at our house in Minneapolis, way before we were in wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was, Rick was born to be a pro wrestler. I told him, I said, Rick, a couple of years after we started wrestling, I said, there's no way you could get a fucking job anywhere in the world. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, you're unemployable. You are totally unemployable. No business in the world would put up with your shit. I said, you were made for wrestling, and wrestling was made for you. And
That's how wrestling was, though, in the old days, right? A lot of the guys could never have done a regular job.
well, that's true. That's true because I know a lot of old timers, that have passed away now. I mean, I'm 81. So I'm talking 20, 30, 40 years ago. Uh, I met all these old time wrestlers, and once their wrestling careers were over, they were over basically. But most of them didn't have any skills, and there wasn't opportunities for what Tank and I have nowadays. For personal appearances and stuff. I had two personal appearances in the last 3 days. One in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, or Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and I can't remember the dates on them. A couple of weeks from now, or a month from now. And I just finished one up in at a liquor store over in Monticello, Minnesota. And you know what? These people, they're like 40 years old. They remember watching me wrestle when they were kids. And that really makes me feel good. I mean, they're not throwing thousands of dollars at me, but a couple thousand here and there every week, plus my Social Security. It all comes in handy.
Yeah, you got to pay to plow that 120-foot driveway you were telling me about.
Yeah, my fucking driveway is like 120, 130 feet long, and the patio in front of my house is 120 feet long. So we have a pickup with the plow on it. We have a tractor with the bucket on it. We have two four-wheelers with plows on them. And but you need all that equipment to move all the snow around here in Minnesota. Yeah, when it snows, you don't know if you're going to get 2 inches or 10 inches. That's what I used to tell the girls.
Tank, what do you remember of Ken the first time you would watch him as a wrestling fan? Is there any match of his that stands out?
Obviously, I've heard the legend about McDonald's, which I've come to hear he doesn't like talking about. But that was the first thing I asked him back in at the ICP thing.
Yeah.
He jumped in the van, and I'm sitting there, and it's hard for me to raise an eyebrow with people I've met and stuff like that. And he was in the van, and I was in the van. We were the only two people in there. And someone goes, "Oh, it's Ken Patera." And I'm like, "You're Ken Patera, man." I go, "Oh my God. This is meant to be. The guy that beat up the guy at the McDonald's, my God."
Yeah.
Ever since I heard that story, I was from afar in love with you, because I didn't know you personally or even what you looked like. I just knew that you were the guy that kicked somebody's ass at McDonald's. And I thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I know you talked about it all night that night in the tent.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. So
Yeah.
kind of started scratching my head. And way back when, I have my brother and sister that are like 5 and 8 years older than me. I was kind of like the mistake that came along, but my dad was playing college football. I can remember going to his games. And back in the 70s, early 70s, that was kind of unheard of. But my dad got a scholarship to New Mexico. And he ended up playing football with a guy named George Wells, big black guy that turned out to be a professional wrestler. And he was the guy that wrestled Jake the Snake Roberts at one of the WrestleManias with the foam coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know if this is you or not, but in my head it was. So after I put this together, after meeting him, but there used to be a Channel 13 in LA, and they used to have wrestling on it. And so he was coming out on a loop or what have you, and he looked my dad up, and he was, they went to Disneyland with his kids or whatever. And so my dad went with him to go watch the show from behind the scenes with the wrestling for Channel 13 news, or not news, but that's the local channel there back in the day. And my mom took me, he got us tickets to go in. And we were waiting out in front of the TV studio, down a sidewalk with a chain link fence. And I had to have been third grade. And this guy comes pulling up in a car, and he gets out. And he had, I guess, Hannibal told me that called a Halliburton, like a steel briefcase kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he said, well, he didn't say. The guy pulls up, and he was obviously healing out, being a bad guy. And the whole line was yelling through this chain link fence at this dude. Muscular dude, kind of had on almost like pant clothes, like office type slacks kind of thing. And he grabbed his Halliburton and he ran up and down the sidewalk because everybody's yelling at him and they're trying to spit on him. And he was dragging the briefcase type thing, this Halliburton thing, across the chain link fence, going, "Fuck you, motherfuckers! I'll fucking kill you fuckers!" And the whole crowd was booing him, going, "Get the fuck out of here!" And I'm like, going, man, that guy is the coolest son of a bitch ever. He had like dyed white hair and longer. Not long, but longer. And I'm thinking it was you. I don't know if you ever wrestled at Channel 13.
No, I never owned a Halliburton either.
Okay, then don't ruin my story. It was you.
I did have a travel bag for my wrestling gear.
Well, he was going there to wrestle. That was for sure. And
yeah, it did look like a Halliburton. Come to believe it.
Well, I was in what, third grade, so
yeah.
I was in my mom was so mad and agitated and mad, I can still remember her getting so pissed off.
Yeah.
I was going, this is the coolest fucking guy ever. And he walks off and he's like, "Fuck you," before he went into the TV studio. And I'm going, I bet you that was Ken.
Yeah. I think I saw probably thousands and thousands of fans that I said, "Fuck you, you little piece of shit."
Yeah.
You're probably one of them.
No, I was a kid, boy. This is my first experience with professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And my mom was so mad, boy. I tell you what. If she could, she would have jumped through that fence and killed the guy.
Yeah.
It was back in the day when everybody thought it was real.
Yeah.
And it was.
Well, what do you mean, Tank? It still is.
Like that. Well,
it's still real.
When me and you did it, it was real. as far as I'm concerned. I'm telling you, it was awesome. That was, you know what? I never, ever, ever. I often thought about it because I never thought I would be a professional wrestler ever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you fantasize about it and you think about it, but you go, I ain't never gonna do that. Don't even waste my time like walking on the moon. I'm gonna be an astronaut. But it was like, don't even think about it because it's like stupid. The next thing you know, I'm wrestling Sid Vicious for the world title.
Yeah.
I had to pinch myself all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
this is unbelievable. It's all like I come to the conclusion after everything has come to me. You get kind of spiritual and things like that. And I believe everything is written, you know? It's just everything. I look back at my life and all the characters, the good and the bad people that have been in my life. It's all been written by somebody because I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
Yeah.
Crazy,
It's all been written
crazy,
down a
crazy
long
things.
time ago.
Yes, sir, boy, I tell you. But
Was it
like I
Sid
said,
Vicious? Yeah, Sid
yeah,
Vicious just passed away, right?
Yeah.
yeah, you just did,
Yeah.
yeah, cancer or something. Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
cool guy.
I never met the guy. I talked to him
Oh
on the
yeah,
phone.
Oh yeah. What did he call you about?
No, I called him.
Okay.
And I had a wrestling promotion up here in the Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Dakotas, Iowa, and whatnot. And I had 6 shows booked, and I had Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Jimmy Snuka and Tatanka, the Indian kid. I think he's from North Carolina. But anyway, I had this big card all set up, but I didn't have anybody on TV or that had recently been on TV. So one of my wrestlers that I had trained suggested Sid Vicious. So I don't even know how I got his number, but I did, and I called him. At that time, he was living at his mother's house down in Tennessee, I believe. And so I said, Sid, what would it take for you to come up here to Minnesota for 7, 8 days? And I thought I was going to hear this outrageous number, you know. But he says, Ken, I can't. My mother's in ill health and I'm down here taking care of her. And I said, no, I understand. So I never had the pleasure of hiring him or meeting him or talking to him. Well, I talked to him on the phone, but just that one time, it was maybe 15 minutes at the most. We seemed like a real, but I knew a lot of guys that knew him
Sure.
from when he was down in the Mid South, you know, down in Memphis,
Right.
Tennessee, and those areas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was a big guy. I'll tell you what, boy. I
yeah,
remember one of my first experiences with WCW. They called us up to it was Baltimore or Maryland or whatever. And boy, they talk about a big dude. Boy, I looked over my shoulder. I was like, my God, when does he stop, man? He's kind of going
yeah.
up.
Yeah, he was a big guy. Yeah.
Yes, he was. Big
Ken,
guy.
somebody's asking you about the Worcester Centrum in '87. Your great debate with Bobby Heenan. Do you remember this?
Yeah. What do they want to know?
How was it? That'd be a hard guy to debate against. How was it, and how did you like working with Bobby overall? Another guy that's passed on.
Yeah, well, Bobby was my manager off and on, 2 or 3 different times. I mean, we have a lot of travel time together, and the the debate, that was at the new arena, I think, in Worcester. And a lot of people said, Jesus, did you really hurt him? I said, no. God, looked like you tore his head off. Looked like you broke his neck. I said, that's exactly what it's supposed to look like. But I put a belt, he's whipping me with the belt after the debate was over, in the corner. So then I just lifted him up, turned him around, took the belt away from him, put it around his neck, and then, took 2 steps out from the turnbuckle, and then I threw him. But I actually didn't throw him. He threw himself. And at the end of the belt, we didn't practice this or anything. We're professionals, And just at the end of the belt, I let go. And he jerked his body back in midair. And it looked like I tore his fucking head off. And no, he didn't have any scratches or marks or anything on it. It looked like he was an ambulance case for sure, but no.
Tank, you have someone asking about your Kimbo Slice fight.
Yes. What does he want to know?
What are your memories of fighting him? Another guy that's dead. He was probably taking a lot of stuff by the looks of him.
Yeah, I would think so. Doesn't whatever. I figure all these guys that fight, they take steroids so they can be as strong as me and think like me. But,
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, no, there's nothing. Kimbo, he caught me with a good shot. I went down. I didn't know what happened. It was kind of like a flash knockout. And I remember getting up from my knees, and I looked over to my corner, and they're all like, well, what do you do? Like, uh-oh, you just got tagged. And so I just was on autopilot. I stood up, and he came over and rattled me. That was it. What are you going to do? Sometimes you catch one.
It didn't look like you had trained as hard as your other fights for that one. Was that a short notice fight?
No, that wasn't short notice. He got a good shot in. That's all you can say. It might have been different. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but he came up and hit me in the back of the head, and then I was completely in la la land. Once I was gonna take him down, and after that would have been easy going, but he hit me in the back of the head, and after that, I don't remember anything. I saw the tape, obviously, but actually, after the end, when we were holding each other, hugging each other, he's like, "Sorry for," or right before we shook hands, he goes, "I'm sorry for hitting you in the back of the head," and I'm like, "What do you to be sorry about? Who cares? It is what it is. Shouldn't have happened, but it was just a fluke thing." I have a thing about fighting, and that is when you get to a certain level, you should fight the same guy 3 times. And if you win 2 of them, then you win the first one and the second one, and then you win. But there's all these options that you could do. You can get caught so easily, even though you got caught, and you lost. But if you come back the next night and do it again, and you beat the guy, and then you have the third one, and then the best 2 out of 3, I think that'd be cool. But I don't know how many other people would want to do it.
Ken, are you a Viking fan or a Packers fan? Someone's asking.
Well, that's a kind of a long story, but I'll make it short. My older brother, Jack Patera, was defensive line coach for the Minnesota Vikings from 68 to 75. And that's in 76, he became the head coach. He was the first head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. But when he was defensive line coach for the Vikings, I go down there to their training center all the time. Carl Eller and Ellen Page and Jim Marshall. And I was good friends with those guys. I'd bump into them in the bars, buy each other a drink. Well, usually they bought me drinks because they were making the money. And I was an amateur training for pro wrestling. But anyway, I always liked the Packers. I was always a Packer fan. Even when my brother was a Vikings coach, I wasn't much of a Vikings fan. I was, I don't know. I was always a Packers fan.
There it is.
Yeah, kind of silly. Kind of rubbed my brother the wrong way a little bit, but not really. Yeah.
Someone's asking, Ken, what are your thoughts on Mad Dog Vachon? Who Mad Dog and Tank would have been a good fight if they had got at it. Although I think Tank would have had the size advantage.
Oh yeah, Mad Dog was tough, but he was, Mad Dog was only about 5'6", 190 pounds. As he got older, he's probably up to around 210. But Mad Dog, he had a lot of fight in him, I'll tell you that. Everybody, especially Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura was scared to death of the dog. Yeah, the dog get in the ring. But you guys remember Chris Taylor? Chris Taylor was in the 72.
You used to stretch him, right? I heard that from somebody that you used to amateur wrestle Chris Taylor and rough him up a little bit. Is that true?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, not freestyle, but Greco-Roman. But he loved working out with me because of my strength and my size. I weighed 320 pounds right after the Olympic Games, and he never had anybody as heavy and as strong as me. Mm-hmm. And so he, even in training camp over in Munich, Germany, in 72, he'd always come by my dorm over there and say, "Kenny, you ready to work out?" I said, "Chris, I'm just getting ready to go over the weightlifting hall." And he says, "Well, just, let's, the wrestling hall and the weightlifting hall were right next to one another." And so, I went over there and we'd pummel and, push against. I was the only one that was ever able to push him around the mat. Yeah.
He's a big guy too.
Yeah. Well, in the Olympics, he was 360. Yeah. He eventually blew up to, I think, 480, maybe 500. Yeah. But he was a real sweetheart of a guy. And so I went through Vern Gagne's training camp in 72 with Ric Flair, the Iron Sheik, Cosgrove was Siri's real name. The High Flyers, Jimmy Brunzell, Greg Gagne. And so we had a hell of a training camp. I mean, we were out in the fucking wilderness, brother. We were in a fucking rundown barn that was ready to collapse at any time. 20 below zero, 3 days in a row. You think we got a fucking break? No. Yeah. So after the first week in December, Gagne finally took pity on us and moved us to army, the old armory in St. Paul. And we walked in there. It was heated. It had running water, hot water. It was like leaving a dungeon and walking into the Taj Mahal. That was the difference. And I mean, I looked at those guys and I said, I don't know if I can make it anymore in this fucking bullshit. This is torture. And I told Vern, I said, Vern, this is inhumane. This is bullshit. I mean, I've been in athletics all my life. I'm 27 years old. I don't have to put up with this crap. 2 days later, we were in the Taj Mahal. Yeah.
I seen on the internet that you used to work out at BYU or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I graduated from BYU. Yeah.
So you're a cougar. I went and trained there for a fight with the wrestling team there.
Oh, okay.
I lived in Orem for like 5 weeks.
Really? In
Yeah.
Orem?
Yeah. 800 East. I don't know where else. But
Yeah.
that was an old house that we lived in there. I went there and trained with the Olympic champion Mark Schultz, Olympic world champion.
Oh yeah, I remember Mark.
Yeah. So he was the head coach there, and yeah, wow. We spent 5 weeks there. It was a pretty good time.
Yeah, that's right at 5,000 feet elevation, I believe.
Yeah, I was fighting in Denver, so and I had a friend that was the heavyweight wrestler there. So he talked to Mark and said, "Hey, can this guy come up and train?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, bring him in."
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
good.
yeah, we had a good time there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if Orem was ready for me, but
Yeah.
we kept
I'm
it
sure
secret.
Orem wasn't. I didn't. I wasn't able to warm. I wasn't able to warm Orem up enough for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I lived in Orem
Yeah.
when I was in college at BYU.
Yes.
BYU was, just 10 minutes away from where I had a house. BYU was in Provo, Utah.
Yep.
And you can see the Uinta Mountains there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to describe, but when I was living on campus for 3 months, I could look out of my dormitory room and see the house that Donnie and Marie Osmond and her whole family, Of course, Donnie and Marie were 8, 9, 10 years old at that time.
Sure.
Their fucking house was unbelievable.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and that whole side now. Well, that was back in 96, 95.
Yeah.
They were Mark was just building a house up there on the side of that hill there. That was, like I said, wow, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. The Schultz, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mark.
Mark. He was going to live there, huh?
Oh, he was the coach. He was the head wrestling coach
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And yeah, he's building a house there. It's quite an experience. Like I
Yeah,
said, you had to warm them up for me. I don't think they were quite ready.
yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much flew under the radar for most of the time, and then the last week they kind of put him in a quandary. They found out I was working out there, and told him that hey, he's got to shave his beard off and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, well, let me talk to him. And then he talked to me and he goes, look, you're leaving in like 2 or 3 days. Just say, hey, you're talking to me about it. And then he'll be gone and it'll be over with.
Yeah.
I said, okay. The field house there and everything. Boy, that was a
Oh,
interesting.
they had unbelievable workout facilities there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The field
Yeah.
house and his
Yep.
strength coach there, the guy that was head of the weight room.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I was there, we had the old facilities.
Uh-huh.
You're talking 20 years after me.
Yeah, they were
But
just
when I was there, it was phenomenal. And
okay.
then they built new field houses, new workout facilities. It was just unbelievable what they did with that place. Because I went down through there once. I had to go to Salt Lake City once. So I stopped down to the campus there in Provo. And I looked around. I said, Jesus, that, what they've done with this place is unbelievable.
Oh yeah. Well, it's still small when I was there. Not small, but relatively speaking, it
Yeah.
was uh, it was an experience. Though I'll tell you that the
Yeah.
LD was it
Yeah.
Latter-day Saints LDS lifestyle.
Yeah. It's different.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Elaborate on that for us, for someone like me that's not aware of that lifestyle that much, other than what I see on TV.
Yeah.
You won't be seeing any professional wrestling now. Let's put it that way. Or you won't see me or Ken wrestling there. Anyways.
No. I
What are the
love it.
rules with them and the multiple wives? Is that a true thing?
I think it is, but I didn't ask questions. As
Yeah.
usual, just try to go with the flow and in and out.
Yeah. The one of the founders of the Mormon Church, uh, his name was Brigham Young, and the old saying is, "I don't care how you bring them, but bring them young."
Yeah.
And he had like 54 wives, and he had a big house. Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know how he took care of 54 wives, but they said that he serviced every one of them every month. And I said, wow. Did they have any testosterone boosters back then in, 1845? I don't think so.
That was definitely a little chapter in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was all good though. And then Mark wanted to fight in the show, and he fought and won. And he's a pretty tough guy. He took the guy out real quick. And then the school cracked down on him and said, no, 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 you're not doing that. And he never made it any further than that after they
Yeah.
cracked. Yeah.
What was that wacko's name again back in Pennsylvania that shot him?
John DuPont.
Yeah, that was his brother,
Oh,
Oh,
David. Yeah. Mark was the older, I think the older brother. And
Yeah.
David was his younger brother, and he ended up shooting him. The
Yeah.
Fox Catcher wrestling team. They did that movie after him.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And then Hannibal. They that's where Paul Herrera starred in that movie.
Oh yeah,
They use that clip in there.
interesting. I guess I didn't recognize him at the time. I'll have to rewatch it.
You didn't see the elbow?
Oh yeah, the elbow, yeah, with
That's what
Gary Goodridge.
that's what they used on him in the
Oh,
movie. He was watching like a TV or something like that, and Mark saw, "Hey, what's this?" And
oh, they showed the clip in the movie.
yes,
Okay.
I thought you
I
did.
remember I didn't really like the movie, to be honest with you. When it first
I,
came out, I saw it,
I've never seen it, so I have no idea.
but I'll have to
I
rewatch it.
just know that clip is in there.
Someone was asking if either of you guys have any memories of Scott Hall. Did you ever run into him in AWA or WCW, either of you?
Yeah. The first time I met Scott Hall, he was training for to get into the business in the AWA, and I met him. I'm finishing up my prison sentence over in Wisconsin, and the guys that were in the training camp, there's 5 or 6 of them. They were in a van. They were all going to, I think, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So they had to come right by the hotel I was working at. And I mean, I really had it tough in prison. I worked at a hotel, 8, 10 hours a day. I ran the health club down in the basement. And then dinner time, I'd come up and sit in the dining room and have steak and lobster. I'm not bullshitting about that either. I knew the cook, and the cook loved me.
Yeah,
But it
I can
was,
already imagine.
what's that?
I said I can already imagine it. I can envision everything about it.
Yeah,
Of you doing a hard time.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, I did a year and a half of that bullshit, and my wife would always drive over, at least once, sometimes twice a week, and we had a little area down in the locker room where we had
Yeah, is it this wife? I was just going to put this up. Was that what? That's
yeah,
one of your wives. This has been making
yeah,
its way around the internet.
yeah, that's the one. Nancy, that's Emily is in her lap, and the one I'm holding is Natalie. She's the one that you were talking to earlier.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got conjugal visits. That's great.
Well, I didn't have them by the prison system. I just fucking made them. I said, shit, if they're going to hold me for a year and a half in this shithole. Uh, Actually, the release center where they had me it was just like a motel, but I mean, you couldn't live, you couldn't go out in the kitchen and fix a steak whenever you wanted to. But I had things, I could get around that stuff too.
Is there some story that I've never heard? Someone's asking about there's some massage parlor girls from North Carolina that fell in love with you and Ric Flair. Is that a story that Flair's told or something?
No, that's true. God, I forgot about that. Fuck. Yeah, whenever we would come, well, it's, Wahoo McDaniel, Paul Jones, quite a few of us. There were these houses, older houses. They had that they build them out to like 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, and there were massage parlors. And I'll tell you, these girls were hot. And whenever we'd be coming back from Raleigh or, up north and northeast of Charlotte, we'd stop. Well, I got to it was only 15, $20, They'd do the whole 9 yards. Well, after 2 or 3 times, one girl fell in love with Rick and one fell in love with me, and fuck, we couldn't get rid of them. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I was sitting in my den one night, and the fucking phone rings. This Dolly. I said, "How'd you get my phone number?" And I don't remember, but anyway, I said, "Never call here again." And so, like a week later, I'm in a motel up in Raleigh, and she comes barging in my fucking room, and I had an arena rat there, I said, "What?" I said, "What's going on here?" No, it was the Hilton Hotel in Raleigh. I said, "What the fuck is going on here?" Well, I just wanted to tell you how much I love you and this and stuff. Yeah, she wasn't on drugs or anything. She was just straight out. And she was a gorgeous girl. I mean, Jesus. I said, "Hey, I'm married. I have children. I don't need any problems. I told you that." This went on for about 3 months. And I can't remember how I finally got rid of her, but I did. But yeah, wherever I was running, sometimes she fly in, sometimes she rent a car. Those girls were making bonkers of money for that time.
Wow.
And they knocked down $300, $400, $500 a day. They were making more money than we were.
That's before all the deadly diseases were known, I guess.
Oh yeah, way before. It's the mid-70s. Yeah.
Tank, I know you're not going to agree with this, but someone wants to know, is Don Fry the most durable fighter of all time? He could take your punches, and he didn't submit to Shamrock's ankle finisher. Did you hear that, Tank?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to be nice.
Yeah. Who gives a fuck?
Right.
There's a good answer.
It's funny is good for him. Yeah, he's all that in a bag of chips. They're gonna run around and act like a crazy cowboy and tell everybody how tough I am.
Yeah. I was never in the UFC or any of that shit. I was a professional wrestler. Everything was designed, all worked out. And people tell me I could beat so and so, and I could do this. I said, "How do you know?" I says, "I never fought. I wasn't a fighter. Yeah, I
in
sure,
my
sure. I was big, strong, and tough. I didn't put up with any shit, but I guess I could have held my own.
well,
I said,
yeah,
I said, I'm not going to back down from anybody. But, and then when people ask Tank about, shit,
oh,
yeah, it's the same
you know,
thing.
these people, well, whatever. There's a contingency of people out there that like to break everything down into, well, he does this, he does that, and he does this and that. And reality doesn't really matter. It's like, who cares? You know,
Yeah.
they have ways of fixing that. I mean, he fought his friend before he fought me. He stumbled on my foot, and I fell down. He was
Yeah.
on queer. He was on Queer Street. He stumbled on my foot. Oh, you're making excuses. You know what? God, what does he look like when he's natural? He's like 190 pounds. You show up with a drug test and see how fast he lasts.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
It's like you know what? It's so tiresome. It's like, hey, you know what? It affords people the ability to be part of it, and oh, this is what I would do, and this is how I would do it, and this is what this guy did, and that's the right way. Makes them makes them tough in their own mind because they can think of things to do when
Yeah.
actuality doing it is the hard part.
Well, they live in a
Anybody can,
fantasy world. Yeah.
yeah, anybody can throw a punch, you can take a punch, but doing it right and surviving it and throwing a right punch, who cares? It's not just that. It's what's going on in your head. And, for the most part, these people that sit around and make up stories don't
Mhm.
even know how to think like that. It's not if fighting was so easy that you could talk about it like you're playing a chess game, then everybody would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, who cares? You know, whatever you think makes Don Fry tough, that's great.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. Like I say, who gives a
He got a
fuck?
he
Yeah.
Ken,
got
before we wrap it up here, could you guys share a drinking story? You guys are both legendary drinking guys. Could you guys share a drinking story before we close it up here?
Oh, wow.
Oh, go ahead, Ken.
You want me to
My
start?
whole life's been a drinking story.
I had so many
Yeah,
legendary
go.
drinking stories, I can't remember any of them. How's that?
Yeah, that would be my category. What was your drink of
Yeah,
choice, though, Ken? Because we know Tank's was vodka cranberry. Did you
Well,
have a particular drink?
I went back and forth. When I started wrestling, I was drinking scotch and water and beer. And then I got to the point, I stopped drinking scotch and water after about 4 or 5 years. I stayed strictly with beer. And then I switched to vodka, screwdrivers. And after 2 or 3 years, they uh, uh, upset my stomach. And so then after that, I uh, I just drank a variety of stuff, mixed drinks, scotch and water, whiskey, uh, diet coke, all that shit. Then I eventually just in the '90s or in the '80s, I switched mainly to uh, diet Miller Lite. I didn't drink much whiskey in the '80s, so Now I drink a little Windsor and Diet Coke, and I had 2 or 3 a night. Yeah, I don't. I have a bladder problem or urinary problem. I have 2 drinks. I have to pee all fucking night long.
Mhm.
And I went to the urologist, I don't know, 2 or 3 times over the past 10 years. And the same old shit, You're just getting fucking old. And yeah. Good diagnosis, doctor. I told you that one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just getting old.
Well, very good. Is there anything you want to tell us quick here to wrap it up, Tank? Because I know it's getting late.
Oh no, I'm all good. Left
Very
foot
good. Well,
broke.
it's a pleasure talking to you guys. Hopefully, we can maybe do it again because you guys are interesting together, and I always like hearing both of your stories.
Yeah,
Ken, you do have a Facebook page, right? And Tank is on Twitter and Instagram.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if
Well,
people want to book you, Tank or Ken, where do they book you if they want to look you guys up for
well,
autograph?
they uh, Ken Patera 43 at gmail.com.
Very good. And Tank, you're on Instagram or at Tank Abbott Podcast on
No,
Twitter.
just tank
Uh,
abbott, tank.com or tank.abbott on Instagram.
Very good. Ken, there's some people saying you need to run for governor of Minnesota.
Now, Jesse Ventura beat me to it.
Yeah. And now he's back with WWE. He called a match not too long ago, but I guess he was calling one of the wrestlers' name wrong and stuff. But it was good to see him back.
Yeah, yeah. He came to my last birthday party. Uh, well, he came to my 80th birthday party. I'm 81 now. But Jesse's a good guy. But we have mutual friends that, they say, Ken, would you mind if I invited Jesse Ventura to the party? Would you have a problem? I said, no, invite him. I don't know if he'll come. Sure enough, he showed up in his brand new Tesla. I said, I thought you drove a Porsche. Nah, I sold both of them. He likes that Tesla, though.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate having both of you on, and we'll close this down for the fans right now. So thanks everyone for watching.